Hello, today I would like to talk about maybe the most widely used and most confusing Finnish word for us learners. This is tulla. The basic meaning of tulla is to come. We know this word at the very beginning of our Finnish learning journey. However, the more I learn Finnish, the more complicated this word seems to me. It appears in different contexts with various structures. I didn't know how to use it correctly. I could not find any teaching materials that helped clear up my confusion. So, I decided to clarify by myself and make this video for anyone who struggles with the same problem. This video will be arranged by level of difficulty, which is to say, from easy to hard. Most of the examples are from the dictionary, Sanakirjapiste.fi, and some are made by myself and revised by my Finnish friend. So, let's begin. As we know, Finnish verbs change their form according to the subject, and tulla is no exception. In the present tense, minä tulen, sinä tulet, hän tulee, and so on. However, many Finnish sentences have no explicit subject. In these cases, tulla always stays in the third person singular form. For example, tulee in the present tense, tuli in the imperfect, and tulisi in the conditional. In this video, any instance of tulla that always keeps its third person singular form will be highlighted in italic yellow. As I mentioned at the beginning, tulla means to come. The idea that somebody comes from somewhere can be expressed in this way. Joku tulla jostakin. For example, Mikko tulee Suomesta. Mikko comes from Finland. He tulevat Kiinasta. They come from China. Naturally, we would think of another expression. Somebody comes to somewhere. Joku tulla johonkin. For example, milloin tulet kotiin? When are you coming home? Mun lapset tulevat Helsinkiin. My kids are coming to Helsinki. This structure can also be used in abstract contexts. English fixed expressions such as it comes to my mind when it comes to something, and as far as I'm concerned, can all be translated using tulla in Finnish. In these cases, tulla is always in its third person singular form. For example, tulee mieleeni, että hän osaa puhua suomea. It comes to my mind that he can speak Finnish. Tulee mieleeni is literally comes to my mind, and you can adjust the possessive. Tulee mieleesi comes to your mind. Tulee mieleensä comes to one's mind. The pattern is flexible. Mitä minun tulee, niin Tampere on Suomen paras kaupunki. As far as I'm concerned, Tampere is the best city in Finland. Mitä politiikkaan tulee, ihmisillä on erilaisia mielipiteitä. When it comes to politics, people have different opinions. Mitä johonkin tulee is a fixed idiom. You cannot rearrange it. What you can do is slot any topic into the johonkin position. Mitä minun tulee, mitä politiikan tulee, and so on. Tulla can also mean to become or to arrive. It indicates changes in weather, time, and other impersonal situations. Again, there is no subject, and tulla always appears in its third person singular form. The structure is tule plus an adjective or a noun. The case of the noun or adjective varies by context. For example, tule kylmä. It is getting cold. Kylmä is in its basic form. Tuli sate. It started to rain. Sate is again in its basic form. Huomenna tulee lunta. It is going to snow tomorrow. Interestingly, lunta is in the singular partitivi. Keep this in mind. Ennen kuin tulee myöhä, before it gets late. Tulee tänään 2 vuotta siitä, kun muutin tänne. It is 2 years today since I moved here. If we want to express that something or someone undergoes a change, Finnish actually gives you 2 different ways to say it. The first is jostakin tulee. where tule always stays in the third person singular. The second is yoku or yokin, tulla yoksikin, where tulla conjugates to match the subject. Let's start with the first pattern. Kirjasta tulee kuuluisa. The book becomes famous. Heistä tuli pari. They became a couple. Minusta tulee lääkäri. I'm going to be a doctor. Now the second pattern. Well, tulla agrees with the subject. Kengät tulevat lihaisiksi. The shoes are getting dirty. Äiti tulee vanhaksi. Mom is getting old. Minä tulen lääkäriksi. I become a doctor. These two patterns are subtly different. If you are curious, you can find a detailed comparison on the website uusikielemme.fi. When we want to say that someone receives or gets something, tulla is again the verb to reach for. And again, it always stays in its third person singular form. For example, meille tulee tänään vieraita. Some guests are coming over tonight, which is the same as saying, we are having guests tonight. Minulle tuli nälkä. I got hungry. Heille tuli ero. They got divorced. On the previous page, we saw that they became a couple is heistä tuli pari, but they got divorced is heille tuli ero. This is genuinely tricky. Even my Finnish teacher couldn't explain it, but here is one way to remember it. A relationship grows from love, that is sta, and divorce finally comes to you, that is le. Tulla can also be followed by different verb forms. This is a bit more advanced, but worth knowing because I often come across it in Finnish podcasts. First, tulla plus tekemään. It means going to do something or in order to do something. For example, tulet huomaamaan, että suomi on mielenkiintoista. You will find that Finnish is interesting. Se tulee olemaan vaikeaa. It's going to be difficult. Tulen hakemaan sinut. I will come pick you up. And notice that the first two examples express a future outcome or prediction, while the third describes a purpose in order to do something. Tulla can also express obligation, the sense that someone must or should do something. In this construction, the subject appears in the genitive case, and tulla is once again in the third person singular. For example, mitä minun tulee tehdä? What must I do? Sinun tulisi lukea se. You should read it. Työn tulee olla valmis huomenna. The work must be finished tomorrow. Notice that tulisi, the conditional form, expresses a weaker obligation than tule, closer to should than must. The last one is trickier, and with the help of my Finnish friend, I came to understand it. When you want to express that someone ends up doing something unintentionally or unexpectedly, you can use one of two forms, tulla tehneeksi and tulee tehtyä. For example, kuinka tuli tehneeksi sellaisen virheen? How did you come to make such a mistake? From tulit, the second person singular past of tulla, we know that the subject is you and notice the object, sellaisen virheen, is in the genitive case. Kuinka tuli tehtyä sellainen virhe? How did one come to make such a mistake? Here, there is no explicit subject. It refers to an unspecified person, similar to English someone. And notice that the object, sellainen virhe, is in the nominative case. Let's look at one more example that I learned from the podcast Helppoa Suomea. Me tulen tilanneeksi liikaa ruokaa, koska se on edullista. I end up ordering too much food because it is inexpensive. Tulee tilattua liikaa ruokaa, koska se on edullista. One may end up ordering too much food because it is inexpensive. This sounds quite challenging, but you will often come across it in everyday Finnish, so I think it is well worth learning. Alright, That covers everything I wanted to share about Tulla. To sum up, at its core, Tulla means to come, used when talking about coming to a place or coming from somewhere. It also indicates changes in weather, time, or other impersonal situations. In these cases, no subject is needed, and Tulla often appears at the start of the sentence. When expressing that someone or something undergoes a change, you can use jostakin tulee or joku or jokin tulee joksikin. They carry subtle differences. You can explore more at uusikielemme.fi. When we say someone receives something, Finnish can also express this differently. Something comes to someone. Jollekulle tulee. Finally, tulla can also be followed by verb forms. Tulla tekemään means going to do something, or in order to do something. Jonkun tulee tehdä or jonkun tulisi tehdä express obligation, must or should do something. And tulla tehneeksi or tulee tehtyä implies that somebody does something unintentionally. Okay, that's all for today's video and hope to see you next time. Moi moi!